Raikan Topani is for Thai drama lovers only. Hello, Sawadee Tukon, and welcome to Axelle's Guide to Thai Dramas. I am Axelle, and the Thai drama we're talking about today is... I feel like my voice is already gone. It is Boys in Love. Okay, so... let's be transparent with you guys. I literally forgot about this show already. Literally, I am usually batch filming these episodes. So usually I film 2 episodes per day in the same day. Today I'm doing 3. I've already done 1. That's why my voice is a little bit fucked up. And I was like, I have a 3rd show. Which one was it? Which is one of the shows that I finished recently. And I'm like, Boys in Love. True. So, it kind of proves what I'm gonna talk about in this episode. Let's go on to my first impression. I have to be honest, I had almost no first impression of Boys in Love, because I didn't care for it at all. I was like, great, yet another high school BL with random new actors that I don't know. At the same time, I was a little bit intrigued because the last time I said that for GMMTV show, it was, or maybe not the last time, but it was My School President, but I even said the same thing for, what's that show? The Seeking show. I forgot that name. Only Boo, which I really enjoyed. Which it was mediocre, but it was really fun. And honestly, I feel like I tend to say that, but I actually really like high school BLs. Or high school romances in general. I know most people my age, I'm 26, don't really like high school romances, but for me, I really like them. I think it's for me a way to live something that I didn't live in high school, because my high school experience, I was deeply depressed. I was suffering through an eating disorder, body dysmorphia, literally feeling so terrible about myself that I would definitely didn't have time for romance. So for me, it's interesting to, and the interesting thing with high school or puppy love romances that you have before you turn 18 is that once you turn 18, you can never get them back. Once you've lost that opportunity for them, it's gone forever, unfortunately. And so for me, I think it's a way to relive this opportunity. I think for a few years, I was actually really sad about the fact that I never had a high school relationship. Nowadays, again, I'm 26, so I feel like I'm kind of over it right now. But, I think that's why I love high school romances so much. And a lot of BL that are set in high school are actually some of my favorite comfort shows. So it's not that I was looking down on this show for necessarily being in high school, but for me, from the trailer, I was like, first of all, there's 4 pairings. This is too much. And even though I have enjoyed other shows with 4 pairings, it's just that it's always clear to me that when there is 4 pairing, I'm gonna be left on my hunger. Again, I'm translating a French expression. I'm gonna be left on my hunger when it ends, because there is no way to develop 4 ships equally in a show. And even We Are, which I really enjoyed, it's quite forgettable, a little bit mediocre, but it was really fun. Even We Are had this problem for especially the 4th ship, which was Mark Poon, where they barely got any screen time. So for me, that's more so what I think. But I usually actually enjoy shows with 4 ships, because then you can kind of get different aspects of romantic relationships in every ship and kind of mix and match and choose the one that you like the most. So that was my first impression. Totally unimpressed. Kind of, honestly, I didn't think I would even watch the show until I realized that one of the ships, the least developed of them, is Pod and Papeng. So one thing about me, Not Me, has to be mentioned every episode. So first of all, anyone who was in Not Me is forever and ever and ever and ever an icon in my eyes, and I will always stand them. And Papeng is included in that. And on the other hand, I've also always rooted for Pod. I think Pod was done extremely wrong by GMMTV. They gave him the worst role of all time in all of all time in GMMTV BL shows, which is saying a lot, of Tonhon in Tonhon Cholati, which goes down as the worst BL GMMTV has ever done. Like, I don't know anyone who actually enjoyed Tonhon Cholati and still looks back on it fondly. I really think that show sometimes feels like a fever dream. It's insane. But in any case, I feel really bad because Kautang, who was also in Tonhon Chorati, got a second chance and was paired and is in a very successful pairing that now has been for a few years. But I feel like GMMTV has never quite known what to do with Pod. I think there's a few aspects to that. Maybe also because Pod is a very simple guy. He's an introvert. I've seen his GMMTV Live House episode with my favorite actor of all time, of Jumpon, and Papeng when they went on GMMTV Live House, and Papeng did most of the talking, and Pod clearly was someone who's not very expansive in terms of thoughts and in terms of talking in public. So I do get that he maybe doesn't have the star quality that GMMTV is looking for, where they tend to really prop up, right, the actors that are a little bit more extroverted, silly, not afraid to look a little bit like a fool on TV. But Pod, for example, has never been much in variety shows even, compared to a lot of other actors who have been at GMMT for a lot less time, but get a lot more like light shone on them. And so it's really, really sad because I think Pod is a really great actor. Obviously, he's very handsome. Like, he literally has everything, in my opinion, and I'm so glad that within his pairing with Papeng, who I also adore, he seems to really have found his footing, and I really enjoy this pairing, and I'm so excited. I really hope they get a show in 2026 because they are really great, and I feel like a lot of people agree with me. I've seen a lot of their clips like go viral and have a lot of likes on social media, so fingers crossed. And also Pod and Papeng themselves have promoted their pairing a lot, through TikToks and Instagram photo shoots and all of that. So I'm very excited to hopefully see a lot more of them. So this was my first impression, but yeah, I was mostly there for Pod Papeng. I'm gonna be honest. If they weren't here, probably I wouldn't have watched the show. So for the synopsis, so this show is set in a high school and in the last year of the characters. I think you will have noticed by now, if you've watched any sort of Thai dramas set in high school, it always ends up being in the last year of the characters. Like, I don't know why. I think, even me, who also is a writer, every time I've put characters in a high school setting, it is always, now I'm thinking about it, in the senior year of high school, so last year of high school. I think because it's like a year ripe for change, and there's a lot of things that can happen during that year. And I think it's much more exciting to set the characters in that year than any other year in high school, especially since then it can also open up for what's going to happen when they go to university, you know? So I think that's pretty interesting on that front. So it's set in a high school that is very, very different from, the other high schools in Thailand and that we've seen in Thai dramas, which has no uniforms. The principal is very chill and doesn't really give a fuck about anything. And so they are all dressed, on their own, which is interesting. We'll talk about it in the costume design of the characters. And I think that was a fun setting. And so that high school has a group of friends. The group of friends is composed of Shane, played by, let me pull up the episodes, girl. So you have the friend group of 4 people. So we have Shane, played by Mick Metas. We have Kim, played by Shokun Putipong. We have Tar, played by Paul Tanan. And we have Per, played by Ken Conti. So, Shane is the main character, and he is kind of a nerd. He's very super high working. He has a very big family. They are 4 siblings. I really like that dynamic. We'll talk about it a little bit more. And he comes from not the most secure background, because his parents literally have broken up and moved abroad and left their kids together in an apartment because 2 of them are already adults. And so they've been kind of abandoned, if you will. And Shane's dream is to go study abroad, and that's his character's motivation throughout the whole show. And we'll talk about it, how this show does subverts a few things. So we'll talk about it. It's an interesting show. And so Shane has to one day start tutoring a richer and more popular and more chill like student who's quite bad at school. Kit, played by Luke Pin San, who is, yes, a little bit like, he could have been a bully, but I really liked Kit. Spoiler, Kit is actually, I think, my favorite character in the whole show. But anyway, and then you have Kim, played by Shokun, who is more of the class clown. He's a very big romantic. He's falling in love with so many guys. It's an old boys school, by the way. And he is someone who, always got heartbroken until he meets Mon, played by Aston Ratipat, who is a newbie at the school. And spoiler, his mother is gonna be the head teacher or some shit. Like, she's gonna be a high level teacher at the school, and the mother is kind of a bully at times. We'll see that later. And yeah, Kim and Mon form a couple very quickly. We'll talk about it later. Then we have, as I said, we have Per and Tar, which are the two other members in the friend group of Shane and Kim. And they are probably the least developed couple. And frankly, perhaps my fave. I was kind of obsessed with low-key. I'm gonna need more from them. I need a whole, like, I wish they would give them, like, how is this called? My brain is not working anymore. I wish they would give them, not a sideshow, but the shows they give to characters. Girl, my brain is not working. Anyways, I love them. So Tar is a little small. He's the cutie of the group. He's a little bit of a silly guy. He has a very distinct fashion sense. He's kind of a loser, if you will, like kind of the least considered in the friend group, I would say. And he's probably also one of my favorite characters. Yeah, definitely I would say him and Kit are my two faves. Yeah. He's just a silly little dude. Like, I just love him. And then we have Per, who is a runner, and is this guy who doesn't really show any emotion, but he's always bantering and bickering with, Tar. And spoiler alert, they're kind of secretly in love with each other, but won't admit it. And I love them. I would die for them, Loki. Loki, I love them so bad. Then we have, the teachers, which is Crew Tan and Crew Nat. And so Crew Tan is played by my baby Papeng Prompiria, and Crew Nat is played by Pod Supercorn. And Pod Supercorn, so Crew Nat is a newcomer at the school. He's someone who's very righteous and really wants to follow like his heart and what is right. So he kind of is faced, compared to the other professors, to a little bit of resistance, because he kind of offers other ideas to popular ideas around the school, and no one really wants to listen to him. They're kind of annoyed that he's not just shutting up because he's a newbie, but he's actually offering like insight. And Crew Tan is a very fun character. He's kind of a mess. He's kind of like, he is the teacher that supports like especially all the students, but especially Shane. And he's also a little bit of a jokester, but he's also a big loser. He's like falls around, and like he's a very, again, I've watched the GMMTV Lifehouse episode of Pod and Papeng on the show with Of Jumpon, and Papeng said how Crew Tan is a really hard role for him, because it's true that he kind of has to be everywhere. Like, it's a role it's a character that I've never really quite seen before in this way. And, I love him. He's really iconic. And then, as I said, there is the siblings of Shane. So we have Jean, played by Saizi Rutrisha, my queen. We have Piname, played by Onapat. And we have Cheese, the little sister, who's like 11 probably, played by Mina Wanishaya. And that's pretty much all the characters. You can see the show actually is mostly about the main characters. There are very few other characters that kind of make any mark on the show. And That's all I'll say. It's not a downright terrible thing, but for me it shows that like they didn't quite develop the world of the show that much, but we'll talk about it more. So now the cast and the in acting. So for me, I didn't know this cast at all. I knew Mick because when he joined GMMTV years back, it was a huge thing, like, oh, he's Win's brother. I'm very anti-nepotism, so I wasn't gonna like stan. First of all, I'm not even a Win like stan. I like him just fine, but I'm not a fan. I don't even follow him. So I don't know why I would care for Mick that much. And the rest of the cast, I didn't know at all. Also, again, I'm getting older. I'm like, am I really gonna stan kids who are like, aren't they most like 19 or like 18 or 17? How old are they? Yeah, they're all around 20. So they're not babies, but like compared to them, I'm old as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, I already didn't really quite have the incentive to even care about this cast and watch this show. As I said, I watched it mostly for the adult characters. And in the end, I actually really liked the actors. So let's go one by one. For me, Mick's acting is good. I think he did good. He really, really reminded me, not to compare high school shows, of one of my favorite high school shows and the first ever TBL of all time, Lovesick, and the performance by Captain Jonathan as No in that show, where you can see there is a sincerity, there is an honesty to the performance, which I really appreciate. Much more so in Lovesick, but also Lovesick has literally 48 episodes, so they have more time to show more performance from the actors. Like, Lovesick was long as fuck. It's when I think about it, it was fucking insane. All of that to say. That I was a little bit reminded by this performance of by Mick, because there is an awkwardness, there is a little bit of failure to act always perfectly. There sometimes you can definitely tell that he is acting, which was also the case in No's performance in Lovesick, because you can tell this is a fresh actor, this is someone who's not like professional yet, and they're kind of figuring it out as they're going. But I really enjoyed it. It was refreshing, it was honest. I think the acting from Mick was pretty good. It was just like, of course, I think he has a long way to go for harder roles, because this was also a pretty easy role. So I'm excited to see what he can do with a more challenging role. Then we have Kit, played by Luke, and Kit, again, one of my favorite characters. I think Luke did really great in that. I think he ate. I'm gonna be honest, I think Kit was a really fun character. He's quite unique in his way. I think he doesn't really fit into one perfect box, if you will, because when we meet Kit, we're like, oh, he's a rich kid, but he doesn't really act like someone who's super privileged, or at least they didn't really explore the class difference in the show. And this is ultimately gonna be one of my criticisms of the show, which is that most things stay kind of surface level here. But in general, I really like, because Kit is not really the typical like rich douchebag. He's not a popular guy at school. Like, we never see him surrounded by countless guys. Like, he doesn't really have a big group of friends. He's kind of a loner, or at least we never really see him with friends. Whereas Shane, who, like, if we follow the usual tropes and stereotypes, like, Shane is a nerd, so he should have no friends. And Kit is the, like, popular rich guy, so he should have so many friends. But they kind of subverted expectations there. And also, I think the way that Kit acts is very, like, nonchalant, like, cool. But the way that Luke acted was so good, because you could tell what the characters was feeling underneath it all. Even when Kit, the character in itself, he's trying to act nonchalant, you know what I mean? So I think this performance was by far, from the kids actors, not kids, they're all 20, but like the young actors of the show, the best. It was my favorite, in my opinion. Then we have Chokun, who plays Kim. So Chokun, I had seen, was the only one in the kids or like young adult actors of the show that I had already seen in a show prior to this, which was My Love Mix-Up Thai version, which I binged in like one day, a random time last year. I don't know what happened there. And Shokun in that show was definitely my favorite. I really liked his acting. I think he's very cute. He's very charismatic. And I really know why they chose him for Kim. Unfortunately, Kim Mon were definitely my least favorite characters and pairing in the whole show. I still enjoyed them. They had good moments and they were interesting, but yeah. So I think the acting was pretty good, but I don't think they were given that much material. I think their characters are, if not one note, there are two notes, which the first note is like, they're like goofy, like lovey-dovey couple, and the second note they have is like when there's drama and they have to explain to each other. So yeah. And same for Aston, who plays Mon. I think he's fine. I think, yeah, didn't really get to showcase his acting. And I think from all the cast, I think maybe he's the most like inexperienced, and yeah, I'm excited to see what he does in the future. And then we have Paul, who plays Tar. I think he was really good. I think, again, Tar is a very, like, high energy character, kind of who feels misunderstood. I really related to Tar. I think he was really fun, really complex. Like, he could have been explored so deeply. Again, I want, like, a spin-off. That was the word I was looking for. I want a spin-off with Per and Tar so bad because I'm obsessed with them. Per, Tar, and Crutan and Crunut, like, please give these two ships a fucking like side spin-off because I'm obsessed with them. Yeah, I really liked his performance. I think he did really, really well. And then we have Ken, who plays Per. I really liked him. Again, he's not really, doesn't show much emotion and he's not really present in most of the show. I'm not sure which one is Ken as a person and which one is like Per as the character. I'm not sure. I think Per as a character fits the actor Ken so well that it's kind of hard to decipher which one is which, because he does seem like the actor, the real life actor does seem like a pretty like nonchalant dude who doesn't really say what's on his mind, what's on his heart. So yeah, I don't know how much of it was like true acting or the actor was just being himself, but I really loved these one scene we got as Per, like Tar and Per shippers. Like, I think both of them did so. I love that scene so bad. Honestly, I could write an essay about that one Per and Tar scene. And if you haven't watched the show, you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's okay. And then we have Papeng. Papeng did amazing as Crutan. As I said, it was a really hard role. Again, I think Crutan is very paradoxical, very stand out as a character. Like, he's very different from other characters, I feel like. Not just in his show, but in general. And I think he did amazing. He was so cute in this, so touching. And I really enjoyed it. And Crunat, like, I feel like really was giving... I feel like Pot Supacorn is so good at giving like Prince vibes, like I'm the perfect man vibes. Like, he oftentimes gets those kinds of roles, and I think they suit him very well because he is very, very handsome. And I won't talk about the siblings. The siblings are very cute, but there's not that much to say about them. Next, the writing. I think the writing is nice enough, this show, but I'm gonna be honest, there's no real substance to this show. And I feel like also this show doesn't really quite follow like usual tropes or usual writing styles of most GMMTV shows or GMMTV BLs, in the sense that there's not really one climax, there's not really one like turning point of the series, there's not really like much tension in the show. It's a very low stakes show, I feel like, which maybe it shouldn't have been because we're talking about the futures and the studies of these characters. But honestly, the show doesn't spend enough time on certain topics to make it as big of a deal as it deserves to be. So, for example, again, as I said, one of the establishing traits about Shane is that he's extremely hardworking because he's worked his ass off his whole life to be able to study abroad. That's his dream. And first of all, he apparently only applied to one school in America. I'm like, girl, if your dream is to study abroad, you apply to all the schools that offer scholarships. Like what? But anyways, and in the end, it's about like halfway in the show, not even at the end, we see Shane get rejected. And it's a good moment. I think it's a relatable moment. So many people get rejected of something they were really excited for, that they worked so hard for. And this is a really relatable feeling, especially when you feel it as a teenager, when you feel it in high school. In high school, I feel like, especially in senior year of high school, which is like, again, important that this show is set up in the senior year, you kind of feel like, oh, this is a really important year because it's gonna determine the rest of my life almost. And so there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of changes coming, and all of these are really valid feelings that I think are very relatable for everyone. Even people who are not in high school anymore can look back to their old selves and realize that they felt the exact same as these characters, as lost as these characters. So in my opinion, the fact that Shane doesn't get the scholarship, he bottles it up, and in the end, it's kind of a positive. It's good that he didn't get the scholarship. And also at some point, his mom threatened to take him to Germany, because again, their parents split up. And so you're like, oh, but Shane doesn't get to move abroad at all, because in the end, he stays in Bangkok and he doesn't get the scholarship he wanted. And you're like, oh, so he lost his dream. And there is part of the writing that I think is interesting, because we see Shane trying to figure himself out. So one of the very comedic moments that Shane has in the whole show is when he's trying to find his major for university. And anytime he meets someone new, he meets someone in the street. What major are you? Are you engineering? Is it good? Oh, I'm gonna be an engineer. Then he meets someone else. Oh, you're studying dentistry? Oh, I'm gonna be a dentist. Like, he keeps changing it up because he doesn't know who he is outside of that goal that he has put everything towards and was so sure he'd get. And I think that's also a very relatable feeling, but I think the show doesn't spend enough time on it. And also I feel that then there's no real climax. The other climax of the show is that Kit's family wants him to go study in America. And so we spend the first half of the show thinking, oh, Shane is probably going to leave the show to go study abroad. And then the second half thinking, oh, Kit's probably going to leave the show to go study abroad, which of course jeopardized their relationship. And you're like, okay, that's fine. But then because these things end in less than an episode, honestly, each episode, right, is separated in 4 parts, like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. It's like they took one part out of 4 to solve this problem, and you're like, oh, so there actually are no obstacles in front of this relationship. So it's just a little bit, it's very different from other Thai dramas in general. It's kind of changing the codes of storytelling, if you will. And I like innovation. You guys know that. I like change. I like novelty. Okay. But here I'm not sure it was really the move, because this show is already a little bit redundant, right? How many high school BL shows are out there? So many. And they're very popular. Again, I feel like My School President was super popular, kind of against the odds, because a lot of people don't really care for high school shows. So I'm a little bit surprised, because I feel like they didn't really try to innovate in a way that would boost the show, make it more interesting, but actually in a way that removed any real stake and obstacles in the show, where you know that no matter what, the character's gonna be fine. And frankly, because the characters are also a little bit bland and there's not much going on in the show, you're not rooting for them that hard. Like, even I liked Shane and Kit. Like, I liked their pairing, and I liked them as individual characters as well. But I'm like, if you guys break up, like, that's fine. You're literally in high school. Like, it's gonna be okay. And I wasn't like particularly attached to them. I was more again attached to Per and Tart and Krunat and Krutan, that if they were to break up or stop talking to each other, I would be very sad. So for me, this is parts of why the writing didn't work fully for me is that I think they try to make the least offensive show and the most like watchable show, because there's almost no tension, there's no drama, there's no climax, there's no plot twist, there's no like nothing to like kind of hold you over. So at the same time, yes, you're not stressed, you're not like feeling upset, you're not feeling frustrated, you're like just chilling. But at the same time, it's hard to be very emotionally invested in the show. And for me, I know that personally, the shows that win me over the most are the ones that get me emotionally invested. If I'm not emotionally invested, even if you're a good show, you will be a forgettable show. And literally, again, I finished this show a few weeks ago. I forgot I had to review it today. I literally sat down and I was like, which show am I talking about? Like, come on, that proves the thing. So for me, the writing isn't bad. There's nothing offensive about it, but honestly, I would have maybe preferred something offensive than none, you know? And I also really wish we would have gotten more Krutan and Krutar. I feel like, for example, especially Kim and Mon were my least favorite pairing because they are, so obviously they try to offer different flavors of pairings with different couples. So Shane and Kit kind of starts like enemies, or like not enemies, they were never like, they never hated each other, and also they kissed by episode 2, but they were never like very close, right? And so they come into this and Kit is not being cooperative, Shane doesn't even want to teach him, like he's over it, and then they strike a friendship, and then but they immediately kind of fall in love, but then they spend almost the rest of the show navigating what being in love will look like for them, which I found actually really interesting. And that was perhaps the biggest like twist or like subversion of ideas that I have seen this show do. But then we have Kimon, and Kim and Mon get together by the end of episode 1 or 2, like very, very quickly. And they're the sappy couple. They're the couple who's like, yes, baby, my love, my love. Like Kim especially is like he only talks about Mon. And I think it's really fun. I think, for example, of another couple that was a little bit like that in also a 4 ships show, which was We Are, which was a lot more popular than Boys in Love. And We Are and I love Ubum, so I am biased, but We Are, like, I feel like there was more development, more like love put into the sappiness of the Ubum pairing there. I forgot their names on the show, I'm sorry. We Are was also pretty mediocre and a little bit forgettable, no shade, but still more lovable. And Kimon, like, most of the show is like, we're in love, but we're having obstacles, especially to do with Mon's mother, which is pretty annoying in this show. And so it makes it so it's a little bit difficult for me to care for them so much, because I'm like, you guys clearly love each other and you guys clearly always end up solving your problems. Because although they meet a lot of obstacles and a lot of problems throughout the show, and there are some misunderstandings, there are some things that are a little bit shocking, it's like they always end up communicating like they're quite mature and they end up communicating very well for their age, and they look like a stable ship, and they're good for them. But for me, I do like pairings that are a little bit less one note, or in this case 2 notes. I need like at least 5 or 6 notes, let's say that. The one thing I did really enjoy about Kim Mon is that they made Mon bisexual. I was really pleasantly surprised about that. Again, as a bisexual, I be grabbing that fucking bisexual representation and holding on to it very tightly. I think it was really surprising because I think Mon was a little bit more gay coded. Of all the characters, I would say he's the most like effeminate. He's not too effeminate, but he's the most effeminate of them 4. And the fact that they made him bisexual, that it ended up being like a thing that Kim had to deal with, because Kim is fully gay, like we've only seen him like guys before. I think it was interesting. It could have been developed a little bit more, but I really like that aspect. Again, bisexuality mentioned, let's go. Like, I really like that plot twist. This was perhaps my favorite element of Kimon. So yeah, it's just that the writing for me didn't really, yeah, all of the Kimon storylines I feel also felt a little bit repetitive after a while, because it was like, oh, we're misunderstanding each other, and then by the end of the episode we finally talked about it and we're back together better than ever, and then the next episode is the same thing over and over and over again, so it's a little bit repetitive. But yeah, apart from that, I think that's all on the writing. I think it's fine, but there's nothing much like interesting there, in my opinion. I did like the family aspect. I did like Shane's family. I wish we would have seen it more. I know there is one episode that hinges especially about Shane's family, when Cheese, the little sister, runs away to Pattaya to see Name, the oldest brother, and they have to run after her and all of that. Like, it's a family drama. I really like the family relationship. I honestly would watch a show of these four navigating life with absent parents and honestly shitty ass fucking parents. Low-key, I think that dynamic was really fun, and I would love a family show, honestly. I wish GMMTV would do more family dramas, because frankly, I've realized that family drama is perhaps my favorite genre ever. I love family drama. I don't know. I find it so interesting. There's so many different interesting dynamics that you can explore. So yeah, I really like these four together. Then the cinematography, basic. Yes, the high school is more colorful than regular high schools, because everyone can dress like they want, and it's supposed to be a cool high school, so you can see signs on the walls and stuff like that, and it's like very almost cartoonish a little bit. But for me, there was nothing that really stood up. Like, it's a well-filmed show, but there's nothing like particularly striking, particularly original about it. It's just very basic for me. So the cinematography is just very, very basic. Then the pace, I think the pace is good, because you're just following a slice of life of these characters. And again, there's not that much happening in the show. At all times, there's like one thing happening per episode, or two max. So it's not like watch like not being that focused. You don't need to be like locked in to enjoy the show, to follow the action of the show, because there's not much happening. So the pace was fine. Then the ship's chemistry. So I've already kind of spoiled my feelings. I really liked Shane and Kit. I think at first I was really surprised when they kissed by episode 2. Usually I'm kind of annoyed, because I feel like nowadays BL shows are not, and even JL shows are not letting the characters actually fall in love before they kiss. I feel like these shows want to hook the viewers in as quickly as possible, and so they make the characters kiss by episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. But for me, it's just most shows, like The Trainee didn't do that, Cooking Crush didn't do that, but that's because Afghan know how to take their time, and that's why they're my favorite ship. Anyways, so I feel like they want to hook the viewers in so quickly that they make the characters kiss. So I will admit that when I saw Shane and Kit like kiss by episode 2, out of literally almost nowhere, like you had seen a little bit of chemistry between them, you had seen a little bit of tension, and when they kissed I was like, oh, so you're doing this to hook the viewer. But then I thought about it, and yes, they definitely did that to hook the viewer, because again, this show doesn't have much for itself, okay? So they needed to hook the viewer quickly. But actually liked it, and I think it kind of stood out on that front, because I think it's interesting to have characters who are minors, who are still in high school, who are probably very immature, right? Kind of figuring out their relationship. And I also think these relationships in general felt more modern, especially the one between Shane and Kit and Kim and Mon. This feels very 2025 in Thailand, where I feel like nowadays Thailand, we know, is very progressive, especially in terms of LGBTQ plus representation. I would say it's perhaps one of the best countries at it. Like, literally, we have out and proud LGBTQ plus people everywhere, in ads in the country. Like, it's very mainstream, and obviously BL and GL are the biggest genres that profit the most to the Thai entertainment industry. So I think it's interesting, because I do definitely think that 17-year-olds, queer kids today would kiss randomly and then like figure out what this means, and not like freak out and be like, I'm gay? Oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it felt really relatable that Shane and Kit weren't freaking out because, oh, I kissed a dude, but they were more freaking out about the fact that they didn't quite know what it meant, and they had just met like a few weeks before, so this was very, very quick. And I think it was very interesting because definitely like a lot of shows sometimes in their setup are a little bit conservative. Like they're very like, I need to court you until we kiss and we get together and then we can make love. Like it's very like conservative, especially like the Lacorns. So I think it was interesting to see a show like this, and especially Kim and Mon as well, who get together very fast. And it's like, duh, it's a high school relationship. You know, when it's true that when you see like the relationship in Lovesick or the relationship in My School President, it's like, or even the one in My Love Mix Up, it's like they take a long time to finally become boyfriend and boyfriend. And it can be relatable for some people, but also I feel like a lot of high school relationships are very sudden and very like, oh, I like you, let's date right now. And that's why also a lot of relationships in high school are very fickle, right? So I kind of liked this aspect, and I really liked Shane and Kit. I think there were quite a different ship that I had never quite seen before, because neither Shane nor Kit really lean into like cliches. Like Shane, yes, studies a lot and like is kind of an introvert and kind of keeps to himself, but he's not like categorized as a nerd. He's not like, you know, he's not playing in the cliches. And same for Kit. Once again, like he's a rich boy, but he's not really popular. He's kind of a loner as well. He's also kind of introverted. And I think it was really interesting to have a relationship between two introverts like that, who are two people who don't talk that much, but feel an instant connection and then spend the rest of the show nourishing it, you know. And then for Kimon, like again, most of my issues is that for me, they're a little bit bland, a little bit one note, like my baby. Like after a while, it was kind of boring to me. I think the reason it worked, for example, for Uboom to be this cheesy in We Are is because they were a side ship. They were the third ship in the show. So although they are a lot more developed than the fourth ship, which is Mark Poon, they still don't get that much screen time compared to the first two ships, which is Pon Puin and Winnie Satang. And I think it works the best because if we had seen Uboom the whole show go, my baby, Tirak, like we would have gotten bored. But the reason why they became so beloved through that show and people were making memes about the Tirak and they loved it is because we got just the right amount of it. Not too much, not too little, just perfect. And Kimon were a little bit too much at time, in my opinion. They were a little bit boring, but I did appreciate that. I do appreciate Mon for being a bisexual icon, of course. And they were fine, but they were my least favorites of the bunch. Then we have Purantar. Now, Purantar, I was excited for immediately because I liked Tar a lot. Again, he's just a silly little dude, but also I think they are very, I love Friends to Lovers. I love Best Friends to Lovers. That's my favorite trope. I absolutely eat it up every time. It makes me feel all the feels. And I absolutely love the episode where we have Tar, who is obsessed with having his first kiss, almost kiss a random guy, at a party, and then being pulled off by Purr, and who's like, you wanna kiss? I'm gonna kiss you. And I loved that whole episode. Wow, it was so good. The acting, the tension there was so yummy because I missed that fucking tension. Honestly, my heart hadn't ached like this in years. I was holding my heart when I was looking at it. I was like, my babies, I know, please talk through your feelings. And I really loved that the tension in that scene, the way you can tell that they both like each other, but they'll never admit it. And it's just so good. And I'm kind of fucking sad that because this was in the middle of the show. And then after that, like we get the second half of the show where kind of nothing happens between Purr and Tar. Like they keep flirting, but nothing happened. They never confess their love. We know that they're gonna live together at university. So you're like, oh, they're probably gonna end up together, but it's just, kind of left me on my hunger, again using a French expression, where I love them so much. I think they had so much potential. The acting, the chemistry in the kiss scene was so good. In the scene afterwards, you can tell that they truly care for each other. And I think it's so beautiful because at the beginning of the show, they're built up as like, Tar keeps telling to Per like, oh no, like now that Shane and Kit both have boyfriends, we're gonna be stuck together, but we're not even that close. And in the end, you see that they've become closer through the show. And I'm obsessed with them. Honestly, I'm gonna need to write fan fictions about them. I love them so much. And then you have Crew Tan and Crew Nat, who actually do get together on the show, but we never see them kiss. I'm so sad. I feel like once they got together, we actually got less screen time for them, and I was kind of heartbroken over that. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. So, yeah, I did love them though, and I do love the chemistry, and again, I do need more of Papeng and Pod, sorry. Then the music, forgettable. I didn't even notice it. I know everyone, like, every ship did a song, or not even, maybe 2 of the ships did a song, I'm not so sure. But I didn't notice it. I didn't really care. I'm gonna be honest. The costume design. So the costume design is interesting because, again, they don't wear a uniform. I think it allowed for more personality to shine through with the characters' wardrobes. So we can see that Shane, for example, is dressed very, very simple. He dresses almost the same every day, very neutral colors, because, again, he's not someone who really cares about anything but his studies. Then we have Kit, who is dressed a little bit more cool, a little bit like artsy boy, I would say. We have Kim and Mon. Honestly, didn't really stand out to me. I feel like Kim, they both dress pretty normal for teenagers this age. But then my king, my fashion icon of the show, we have, of course, Tar. Tar always dressed very colorful, like very fashionable. He always has these little hats, like berets and beanies and stuff like that. And he looks so cute. I just love his fashion in the show because it's so distinct and it really shows his personality and it makes him stand out so much, even though he doesn't have that much screen time, you know. So I really love the costume designs for Per. Also, he's always more and more athletic clothes, more running clothes because he is a runner. So I appreciated that. And the other characters quite basic, but I still like the costume design. I think it was cute, and it was interesting to watch a show without a high school show without a uniform, because I feel like it's so, like, you know, that when you watch not just Thai dramas, but like you watch Korean shows, Japanese shows, Chinese shows set in high school or university, they're always gonna wear a uniform, and that's kind of the rule, if you will. So it was interesting to not have that this time. Then the rewatchability. Honestly, I feel like this has a pretty high rewatchability because since not that much happen, it's not like you can be spoiled or there's like plot twists that once you know them, they don't really have the full effect. I feel like once the show ends, you kind of want to rewatch it more because you're like, oh, you know, they all end up together and all is good and everything is fine. And neither Shane nor Kit goes abroad, and that's great. But, I also think that because it's a little bit of a blonde show, I would never think of rewatching it. Actually, talking about it right now, it makes me want to binge watch it real quick because I want to rewatch it and see if binge watching it is actually a better way to watch the show. And I feel like I will remember more details from it. But yeah, we'll see. I'll probably rewatch it. I'll try it. Next, my enjoyment of the show out of 5 stars. My enjoyment out of the show was actually pretty high. I really enjoyed this show. Again, it was pretty forgettable and I know I won't remember much about it, but I think it was really fun. I think it was cute. It's kind of a show that is meant to be enjoyed and watched without really thinking much. So I would give it 4 stars for my enjoyment. So 4 stars out of 5. Next, my rating. So what did I rate this show? I forgot. Oh, I gave it a 7.5. So 7.5 for me is shows that I enjoy, but that I know are a little bit mediocre, a little bit forgettable. And this is exactly what this show is, not gonna lie. And the grade on my drama list is 8.3. That's cray. I'm not even gonna lie. That's a little bit insane, you guys. Next, we have how I would fix it. And I think that's hard. I think I would Definitely streamline what are the conflicts in each relationship and streamline it more, because for example Shane and Kit has a few obstacles on their way. Kim and Mon have a lot of small obstacles on their way. Per and Tar have one big obstacle, which is that they are best friends and kind of refuse to confess to one another. And Crew and Nut don't really have any obstacles. They're just chilling the whole show, but they are again the least developed pairing, although they are more developed than Per and Tar. So definitely how I would fix it is, first of all, develop Per and Tar a lot more. I think they deserve to be a third ship that was actually really developed in this show. I think they were really cute. I think they had a very interesting dynamic. And I think the actors had really great chemistry. Honestly, I really love them together. So, I would definitely kind of level up the screen time between all the characters. And I would have the going abroad, will he go abroad or will he stay, blah blah, streamlined into one event for Shane and Kit. So instead of having Shane refuse to go to Germany with his mom, which was one plot point, Shane not getting accepted on his dream scholarship, which was the second plot point, and then we had Kit being asked to go to America but not being accepted there, third plot point. So there's 3 plot points that narratively serve the same exact purpose, which is to make the characters doubt. So in the first plot point, Shane doesn't want to be with Kit because he thinks he's gonna go to Germany. In the end, he doesn't go, so he gets with Kit. Second, Shane is gonna leave. He wants to go and doesn't get accepted, and is good for his relationship, but not good for his mental health, for his future, for his motivations, etc. And the third is Kit is probably gonna go to America. What's gonna happen with his relationship with Shane? He doesn't want to go to America. So all 3 in the end kind of revolve around the relationship of Shane and Kit. And I think they could have done only one of those. And I think it should have been the scholarship of Shane, which he then gets turned down. I think it could have been built up before the results of the scholarship were announced. So you can see Kit being scared of losing Shane if he gets accepted, but also wanting Shane to be happy and get what he wants. So being very pulled in 2 directions, where he secretly doesn't want Shane to go, but also he wants Shane to get the scholarship and go because that's what Shane wants. And I think that dichotomy is very interesting to explore. And instead of having 3 separate moments that kind of serve the same purpose narratively. So yeah, that would be one of the biggest things. For Kim and Mon, also same thing, even more. The problems with the moms there, she causes so many problems for them. I would streamline them into 1 or 2 problems, not like 5 or 6 or 7 like they did. And I would make the Mon is bisexual plot point a little bit, last a little bit longer, be a little bit deeper, and have Mon be more like, just because I'm bisexual, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna cheat on you or that I'm not gonna be satisfied by you, blah, blah, blah. Have more of like a lesson moment, on the show, which is probably watched by a lot of teenagers, for whom that lesson is important to know. And yeah, that's how I would fix it. So definitely, and also higher the stakes, like make something big happen. I don't know. And also develop the family of Shane more, because I love these 4 siblings so bad. Like, I wish there would have been a true line throughout the show instead of them picking like at some points, but not appearing in other episodes at all. And I would make Crutan and Crunat kiss. Thank you. And lastly, I'm losing my voice, you guys. Who would like this show? Honestly, I think this show again has been made to be the least offensive to the most amount of people. So meaning everyone would like this show, everyone who enjoys BL. But I think, yeah, if you are fine, I know a lot of adults, especially older adults, are quite awkward about watching high school BL, even though usually high school BL shows are more innocent, so it's not like you're watching them have like sex. That would be really icky. But it's definitely like, I can understand that that thought process as well, to be honest. So if you are feeling awkward about watching a high school show, don't do it. But apart from that, I would say it's a cute show. But for me, it shows me that like high school BL shows like need to innovate a little bit more, stand out, and offer new stories, because I personally like these types of stories. So I keep watching them, and I do enjoy most of them, but in the end there's only one or two that really stand out. And for me, that's gonna be Lovesick, and that's gonna be My School President. But of all the other high school BL shows that I've watched, all of the others, apart from these two, like all mesh together and honestly are not anything special. And I think that I would have thought that GMMTV would have put a little bit more effort towards that show, seeing as they've been pushing Mick ever since he joined GMMTV. And I think they know that he has already kind of a built-in fan base, seeing as he's Win's brother. And so people want to root for him. Like Win's fan base is already rooting for Mick kind of automatically. So I wish they would have given him a better material, but I am excited to see where these pairings and these ships go. I think the cast was really nice. And yeah, it was a nice show. I'm looking for a high school BL to be a little bit more unique from now on. But this was a nice show. If you watched it, please tell me what you thought of it. I was quite surprised to see it flop a little bit, because at some points it was getting less retweets and quote tweets on Twitter per episode than Breakup Service, which I preferred Breakup Service to the show. But at the end of the day, I was kind of still quite shocked, because usually BL shows are kind of an automatic home run. And the fact that this show for half of its episode got only like 85,000 tweets, when most BL shows usually get, at the very least, even like a small BL show that's not that popular gets like 500,000 tweets per episode. So I was really, really shocked that this one only got 85,000. But yeah, I don't know. You guys will tell me what you thought about this. Which one was your favorite ship? And yeah, I'm excited to see where these actors go, because it was, for most of them, their first roles. So, and I think they did really good. So yeah, that was it for today's episode. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.